Most athletes rock up to training half asleep, just out of work, maybe do a bit of foam rolling, and then they're into the training. But if you want to be performing at your best, mixing it with guys who are playing inter-county, then really you need to start preparing well in advance before the whistle even blows. A huge mistake I see a lot of athletes making is that they just wing their preparation. They have no routine or intent, and they just lack that physical and mental prep that is really required, and that is often seen like the inter-county players are doing. So nowadays being on time just isn't enough. The top lads, the inter-county players, are arriving early, they prep properly with intent, and they use training to get ahead of everybody else, not just to survive it. Now, before I explain what actually to do in these preparation sessions, and I'm going to walk you through step by step and get it up on a wee whiteboard here for you. But firstly, I want to explain why we should complete these pre-pitch preparation sessions. Absolute mouthful, but I'm going to explain that now. So the first reason is that we're priming the nervous system. The central nervous system controls how powerful, how explosive we are. So if you imagine you wake up in the middle of the night, your central nervous system is completely at rest. That's why if you wanted to try and squeeze your hand as hard as you can and as explosively as you can, you simply couldn't do it because your nervous system is pretty much on sleep mode. And this, while not to that extent, is a similar reason why we need to prepare and we need to do these pre-pitch preparation sessions, because essentially what we want to do in these sessions is activate the central nervous system and fully switch it on, just like you would with, let's say, an F1 car. You wouldn't allow it to go from 0 to 100 without warming up the engine. And your nervous system is exactly the same. So you want to prepare yourself for the demands of the session that you're going to be going through. And I'll explain in a few minutes exactly what these different sessions should entail and how to prepare specifically for them. But in a general prospect at the minute, you want to have an understanding of what your session should entail and how you're going to prepare for it. So the second reason we want to include these pre-pitch sessions is to reduce our risk of injury. Now, a warmed up neuromuscular system and nervous system is going to be more responsive to the external stimuli, and you're going to be able to react a lot better. Whereas if you're still on sleep mode, let's say for example, for this example, you're going to be a lot slower to respond to different stimuluses, and that can often put you in situations that can cause breakdowns and injuries. Most injuries happen whenever the nervous system isn't ready to handle that stress. For example, if you just go straight out and run a 20 mile run, maybe you might get through it, but there's a good chance that you could pick up an injury along the way because you haven't done any warm-up, you haven't done any preparation, your nervous system is like, what is going on here? So it's really important that we prepare the body, not only just to allow us to be more powerful, more explosive on the field, but also to reduce that risk of injury. And the last point I would say is more from a mental aspect. A lot of players that we worked with have talked on the initial call about feeling leggy, feeling sluggish going into training. And this is one of the simplest ways to just feel really good going into your training sessions. Anybody who completes these pre-pitch sessions always reports feeling so much more explosive, so much more ready to train after completing them. So, without further ado, how can we build this structure into our week and start improving our performance? So I'm going to switch over to the Miro board now. Okay, we are good to go, hopefully. So this is a typical, let's say, weekly structure. I haven't gone into too much depth here in terms of our, gym days, our game days, etc. But let's go off these pre-pitch sessions for our training sessions just first and foremost. So typically, teams will train on a Tuesday or on a Friday, or maybe it's a Wednesday and Friday for some, but you get the gist of it. So for our first team training, what the pre-pitch session needs to focus on is more acceleration and change of direction. The reason being is that this session of the week, your first team training session of the week, is often more intensive in nature. It's more so closed spaces, conditioning games, maybe some small sided games. So these are going to be a lot closer in nature, a lot smaller in nature, which is going to increase the acceleration, decelerations, change of directions that are going to take place in that session. And that's typically the way our week works. The first session of the week is going to be a bit more intensive in nature. It's going to be a bit more changes of direction, a bit more intense to it. Okay, so what we're going to do then with that is, okay, so we understand our first team training of the week is going to be a bit more acceleration and change of direction focused. So what is the things we need to prepare for to be able to complete acceleration and change of direction effectively? So if you break this down, and I'll do this for you here, is we're going to look at our eccentric strength and our force absorption. So these two areas here are going to be really, really important to be able to decelerate effectively and accelerate effectively. So if we can improve our eccentric strength, which is the lengthening of the muscle and the, let's say, the lowering, if you're imagining a squat, the eccentric strength would be when you're lowering down and you're lowering the weight. And then the force absorption is when, let's say, you jump off a box and you're landing. That is the force absorption. You're absorbing the force into the body, and then you're going to try and propel that back out, and you're going to try and get, let's say, off the ground if that you're doing a drop jump or something. Then we have prep for horizontal force production. So the big two things that we would have talked about before in these I suppose outlines is the difference between our acceleration and our max velocity, which I'll touch on in a minute. But our acceleration is going to be more horizontal force production. You're trying to build up speed, so you need to push the ground away from you, and that is going to require more horizontal force production. So we want to be producing force in a horizontal fashion, more so than whenever we're up at top speed already at max velocity, we're going to be looking at vertical force production. So we're going to be just pushing the force down straight into the ground. So this requires different postures and different exercises compared to our max velocity day. So they're going to be our three main aspects that we're going to look at preparing for in this pre-pitch session. So what this could look like here, and I've given you very generously session outline. I haven't given you any reps and sets because this is going to vary a lot for each athlete. But generally what I would do is start with a very low set and rep range here, because obviously this is just to prepare you for the session. It's not to fatigue you. It's not to go after huge big adaptations in terms of strength or power or anything like that. It's really just, let's say, microdosing some of these aspects to prepare the body, the mind for the session ahead. So first up, we have a knee iso push, reason being that we're looking at preparing the knee to be able to handle the huge amount of force that's going to go through it whenever we're looking at our horizontal force production. So whenever we're trying to accelerate, there's going to be huge forces going through the knee and the ankle to be able to push ourselves, push the ground away and push ourselves forward into that build up of speed. So we're going to include a knee iso push. This could be just, again, a short overcoming isometric, so really explosive, let's say 3 to 5 seconds, 2 reps, and you're trying to move an immovable object, let's say a bar, into a rack. You can just push, you want about a 130 to 145 degree angle at the knee, and you're just trying to push into the bar. Okay, then we have some med ball drop catches, skater jumps, rotational palloff. A lot of these here will be looking at our rotational power, and that's going to be working on our or prepping for our change of direction, while also looking at, let's say, our force absorption and eccentric strength. So whenever we're jumping and landing with the med ball drop catches or the skater jumps, we're going to have to lengthen the muscle. We're going to it's going to require some eccentric strength to be able to handle that lowering of the weight whenever we land, and then be able to absorb that force and then reactively push ourselves back up the way to a let's say if we're doing a skater jump to the opposite side. We also have some, let's say, trunk work, because, obviously having good trunk integrity and change of direction is really, really important. So not being able to, or not over flexing whenever we are trying to change direction. So you often see athletes doing a side shuffle and then their whole torso leans this way or this way, and we're losing a lot of energy that way, and we're slowing down our change of direction overall. So we want to be strong through the core, and that is why we include something like a rotational Pallof press. Then we have some drop jump to broad jump, med ball hurdle hops, and this is prepping for our horizontal force production. So our force production going this way, let's say, for example. Okay, so that is, let's say, our Tuesday, our first intensive day of the week. Then, for example, you will probably have a team train on Friday, and more than likely you'll have, let's say, a game on a Sunday for any of the athletes going into in-season now. So your Friday will typically be a lot lighter session if you have a game on a Sunday. So that's going to be typically more open in nature. Maybe you play a 15-on-15 game where you're allowed that room to open up and maybe reach that max velocity speed. So that's why we want to prepare for that. Whereas, let's say on your Tuesday session, they're going to be closed nature games. Whereas now on your Friday, you're going to be allowed to open up. Maybe it's a bit more expansive pitches. You have more space to be able to reach them, let's say 95% speeds for greater than 30 meters. Okay. So your goal here will be to prime the posterior chain. So all of the, let's say, muscles down the back. We want to prime stiffness, because whenever you're pushing vertical force into the ground, then you want to have a really stiff ankle joint, a knee joint, and a hip joint, because you want to be able to, if you imagine like a boxer, if they just try and punch someone with an open fist, it's just going to not get the desired impact that they want. It's going to be just very, very weak. You're not going to get the full force. Same with sprinting. So if you have, let's say, your foot and it's not, or your ankle, it's not stiff, it's not ready to attack the ground, then whenever you hit the ground, it's going to leak a lot of energy and it's going to slow you down. Whereas if your foot is prepared and it's stiff, then you're going to be able to hit the ground and propel yourself back off it. So that's why we want to look at the stiffness. And as I said, as I stuttered around there for a while, looking at vertical force production, that's all going to be part and parcel of this session. So Alan Murdoch really said it best, and this, I suppose, makes the frame for a lot of this session. So he said, running is the interaction between the athlete's ability to generate unique and massive forces down into the ground, resist them, recycle them, and prepare rapidly to do it all over again, and to do it all in the necessary postural requirements that permit it to happen efficiently and repeatedly. So big things that I want you to note here is massive forces down into the ground. You want to resist them. You want to be able to recycle them, so do them over and over again, and prepare rapidly for the next one. Also then our postural requirements. So all of these areas here that I've mentioned is related to this here. So that frames the basis for our max velocity pre-pitch session. A session outline could look like an ankle iso push. Again, this would be, let's say, something like an overcoming isometric, so around 3 to 5 second maximal push into, let's say, a barbell under the rack. You can't move it. This could be paired with an upright overhead switch. And then we could have something like a barbell single leg RDL to prime the hamstrings. Again, keeping that very low reps, like 3x3, with around 50 to 60 kilos on the bar with a supine switch. And then pogos to work on stiffness. So then we have that paired with, let's say, a sled run of 10% body weight. So this is an overarching view, or a big picture view, of what these pre-pitch sessions could look like. And it's very, very simple. It might sound complicated, but these 2 sessions, I would definitely look at including these. If you're serious about trying to get ahead, trying to improve your performance, not a lot of athletes is doing this, and it's a really low-hanging fruit that you can start including. These sessions should only take 10 to 15 minutes. You go in, get it done, then you're out on the pitch ready to go. And whether it's into your speed unit that you do before your team training or into your regular team training, I guarantee you'll be feeling 10 times better. It will get rid of all that legginess, that stiffness that you have going into your team trainings as usual. Okay. So look, hopefully that was helpful. Just a quick run through. If you did enjoy it, make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff on the channel. I will try my best to upload these more frequently. If you did enjoy it, just let me know, and I will do my best to keep the upload frequency a little bit higher than it was. I will catch up with you soon. See you in the next one.